I think there's something really interesting about how little people read and how little people write. It seems like people have a tendency to just not engage with anything other than short form content and things that are contentious, like maybe a YouTube commentator that's talking about who's right or wrong in the political space. People have opinions about everything. They're well enough informed to be able to be keyboard warriors on Reddit, but do they ever read, the autobiography of some famous figure or something like that? Probably not. It's amazing how many people there are who have an aggressive sense that they have a right, an entitlement, a duty to uphold their particular opinion or worldview. And yet, if you actually look at their life, they don't read books. My boss gave these books to all of his lower level managers and said, here guys, read this book. And the reason he did it is because some executive above him liked the book and said, hey, you should get your teams this book so that they can read it. It'll be good. So he did that. And the interesting thing is, he won't read the book himself because it's boring and he doesn't have time to read. So, you make a bunch of money, you have a high level position, but are you able to take time to read a book about, business management or leadership or something? Probably not. So like what do you do in life to be successful and to add value if literacy is not something that you utilize on a daily basis? If reading a book is something you can't do, if composing something that involves, actual thinking, something that's not, maybe not, a number in an Excel spreadsheet or a business email or something like that, but something meaningful. If you can't, put things into words and really think about the higher level why behind what you're doing, if you don't have any interest in philosophy and you don't have any interest in reading, and the only information you get is word of mouth from people, or it's from talking to people on the phone, or it's from text messages or some other short form content, you never read a book, you never really practice those skills of literacy, and you're just kind of regurgitating things that you've heard from other people about maybe, what's the stock market going to do, or who should you vote for, or whatever it might be. We have a literacy problem in the sense that people don't really have to be literate in order to survive. And I think that's good because, we live in a well-connected world. So not every single person needs to be well versed in every single thing. That's perfectly fine. It's okay that we all maybe drive cars, but we don't all change our own oil, because it's easier to just take the car to the shop and tell them to change the oil and don't worry about it. You don't have to try to be an expert at everything. But when everyone wants to be an expert, when everyone wants to be treated like their opinion is valid, and sometimes people want to create silos and they want to segregate themselves and others and say, if you don't agree with me, then I don't want anything to do with you. Or if you don't believe what I believe, maybe your soul is at risk because I know the truth about, what the path to heaven is, or something like that. It's kind of crazy to think that people can have such strong opinions when, if you look at their lives, you'll find they don't actually ever even read a book. I think that's interesting, and it's sobering, and it really puts into context the fact that most people with opinions don't know what they're talking about. Because when somebody says, hey, I researched this, you know what that means? It means you typed it into Google. Come on, let's be real. That's it. Somebody typed something into Google, or maybe they typed it into YouTube, and then they heard somebody's opinion about it. And if they agreed with that person because they liked that person, or that person aligned with their faction or whatever, then now it's gospel truth, and they're going to go around regurgitating that to everybody else. That's how much of our society today works. True research is to actually study something to the point where you understand it and make sure that the sources are accurate, and be open to different perspectives and hear both sides and see whether something is worthy of your belief. But we tend to communicate with emojis and icons. So, it's like voting for a city council position or a school board member or something, and people will say, well, it's a nonpartisan role. But I want to know, like, are they more liberal or are they more conservative? I want to know because I vote on party lines. So what you're really saying is you don't know anything about the person, and so you just want to vote for a faction. You want that to be as simple as saying, pick a color. Because my color is red, and therefore I always vote for whoever's red. Right? Like that's really what it boils down to. And you have the voting population of a country determining the future based off of colors. Like that's what it has come down to. They don't even really know where they stand on issues beyond colors. Because if their party's blue, then they're a blue person. If their party's red, they're a red person. And the people who have the other color, they're bad. And that's it. So you have people with like a kindergarten level of understanding of things saying that they need to be listened to. And if you don't listen to and agree with everything they have to say, then you shouldn't have a voice at the table. And that's true on both sides of political spectrums. So, I guess we could criticize others a lot and say, people are illiterate, people need to read more books, people need to be more well learned or studied. And that's true. But more specifically, we should take the mirror and look at ourselves, because I've been as guilty as anybody I could ever criticize of short form content consumption, not reading enough, not studying enough, and then just having opinions based off of, a high level perception of what I think I align with, and not really looking into more of the details of things. And I think we all can stand to benefit from cutting down on short form content, being more mindful, being more willing to say, I don't have all the answers, and I'm going to make a point to not listen to other people as my main source of information, but to think about it for myself and to have an open mind. And it all starts with being willing to take some time to change the type of content you consume. And that's why I think reading is so important, because when you're just listening to things, it's really easy to be manipulated by people. But if you're reading content, you have to put a little bit of effort in on your part too. If you're going to get the message, you actually have to study the material. And that's where I think we tend to make more well-informed decisions if we're reading content versus listening to it or hearing it or something word of mouth. Because when we have to study it, when we have to read it, and establish an understanding deeper than just repeating what's been told to us, then we're more likely to be critical of it. We're more likely to analyze the message before we just adopt it and make it our own. And there's also a lot of risk in feeling like we know more than we do, and I think that's something worth talking about, because sometimes we think we're experts because we just don't realize how much we don't know. Quite often the people who are the most qualified wind up being people who are very willing to say how much they don't know, while people who are extremely egotistical, extremely convinced of their opinions, tend to be the ones who are the most ignorant. And to that effect, if you want to be wiser, look for opportunities to surround yourself with people who are more wise, and you will be more likely to drift in their direction. But all that being said, it's unlikely you will find people who are extremely wise who don't know how to read. So, challenge yourself. Crack open a book off the shelf. It wouldn't kill you to read for a few minutes out of every day. As always, good luck on your adventure. Till next time, thanks so much for watching.